Jamie adjusted the hand wraps on his wrists, the familiar scent of sweat and leather filling his senses as he prepared for another intense sparring session at the boxing academy. The gym buzzed with energy, the sounds of fists hitting bags and trainers shouting encouragement echoing off the walls. Today, however, there was an underlying tension he couldn't shake. Across the ring, Lucas stood leaning against the ropes, a cocky smile plastered on his face, a stark contrast to Jamie's focused demeanor. "Ready to get your ass kicked today," Jamie Lucas called out, the challenge evident in his tone. Jamie felt irritation surge within him, fueling the fire of their rivalry. "Not if you don't get yourself disqualified first," he shot back, determination hardening his resolve. The atmosphere thickened with unspoken rivalry, each of them vying for dominance in a world where only the strongest survived. As the coach signaled the start of their sparring match, adrenaline coursed through Jamie's veins, sharpening his focus. He took a deep breath, recalling the countless hours he had spent training, honing his skills. With each jab and cross, he aimed to assert his dominance, but Lucas was quick and unpredictable, countering every move with a sly grin. "You're going to have to do better than that," Lucas taunted, ducking under Jamie's swing. Jamie's frustration boiled over, and he launched himself at Lucas with a powerful right hook, wanting nothing more than to land a decisive blow. But as he threw the punch, everything changed in an instant. Lucas sidestepped, and Jamie lost his balance. He stumbled forward, arms flailing, before colliding with Lucas in a tangle of limbs. Time seemed to slow as he felt the impact and heard the collective gasp of the onlookers in the gym. Jamie crashed to the canvas, pain radiating through his shoulder as he lay there, stunned and disoriented. "Hey, you okay?" Lucas asked, genuine concern etched across his features as he crouched beside Jamie. The sudden shift in Lucas's demeanor surprised Jamie. He glared up at him, feeling anger mixed with confusion. "Just get off me," he muttered, struggling to process the shift in their dynamic. "I didn't mean to hurt you," Lucas replied, his tone now laced with worry. "You have to be more careful." Jamie pushed himself up, wincing at the sharp pain in his shoulder. He looked at Lucas, trying to decipher the emotions swirling within him. This was not the moment he had envisioned. His rivalry had transformed into something much more complex. As Jamie sat on the edge of the ring, the adrenaline faded, replaced by a gnawing sense of vulnerability. Lucas stayed close, his gaze unwavering, a mix of concern and something deeper lurking beneath the surface. "You really need to take it easy," Lucas said, his voice softening. "I don't want to see you get hurt." "Why do you care?" Jamie shot back, defensive. "You've spent the last few months trying to prove you're better than me." The words hung in the air, and Jamie immediately regretted the bite in his tone. Lucas was not the enemy he had always painted him to be, but the rivalry had consumed him, clouding his judgment. "Maybe I'm tired of all this hostility," Lucas replied, his expression earnest. "Maybe I see more in you than just a rival." Jamie felt his heart race at the confession. It was an unexpected turn, and it left him momentarily speechless. The intensity of the moment crackled between them, and Jamie could no longer deny the confusion that had begun to fester within him. The coach approached, a concerned look on his face. "What happened here?" he asked, assessing Jamie's condition. "I told you both to take it easy." Jamie looked down, avoiding the coach's gaze, feeling a mix of shame and frustration. He could feel Lucas's presence beside him, an anchor amidst the chaos of his thoughts. "I'm fine," Jamie mumbled, though the pain in his shoulder told a different story. Lucas shot him a sidelong glance, a silent challenge flickering in his eyes. Jamie felt a rush of conflicting emotions: anger at Lucas, frustration at himself, and something else he was too afraid to name. "Let's get you checked out," the coach said, motioning for Jamie to follow him. Lucas stood up, a hesitant look on his face. "Do you want me to come with you?" he asked, his voice soft. Jamie shook his head, not wanting to acknowledge the warmth spreading through him at the offer. "No, I can handle it," he replied, forcing a note of defiance into his tone. As he made his way to the medical room, he couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted between them. The rivalry that had once defined their interactions now felt fraught with new possibilities, leaving Jamie disoriented and confused. After receiving treatment for his shoulder, Jamie sat alone in the medical room, the noise of the gym muffled in the background. He couldn't stop replaying the incident in his mind: the collision, the way Lucas had looked at him, the concern in his voice. It was all so unexpected. For so long, Jamie had painted Lucas as the enemy, but now he was beginning to see the cracks in that facade. The door opened, and Lucas stepped inside, his expression cautious. "How's it feeling?" he asked, his tone genuine. Jamie shrugged, not wanting to show how much the injury affected him. "It'll be fine. Just a bruise," he replied, trying to sound nonchalant. Lucas stepped closer, his gaze intent. "You pushed yourself too hard today. You're a great fighter, but you need to know your limits." Jamie felt a swell of irritation at the concern in Lucas's voice. "And you're one to talk about limits," he retorted, feeling the familiar spark of rivalry reigniting. "Maybe I am," Lucas admitted, his expression softening. "But I don't want to see you get hurt. I know what it's like to push too far." Jamie met his gaze, feeling the vulnerability that underpinned Lucas's words. In that moment, Jamie saw a glimpse of the person behind the rivalry, and it left him feeling exposed. The tension between them hung heavy in the air, and Jamie felt a mix of anger and confusion bubbling beneath the surface. "Why do you care?" he asked again, his voice barely above a whisper. Lucas took a deep breath, his expression serious. "Because I see potential in you. You're more than just a rival, Jamie. You could be something great." The sincerity in Lucas's voice caught Jamie off guard. He wanted to push back, to maintain the walls he had built around himself, but the words resonated with a truth he could no longer ignore. "I don't need your validation," Jamie shot back, but his heart wasn't in it. Lucas stepped closer, closing the distance between them. "I'm not trying to validate you. I'm trying to help you see that you're capable of more than just being the best fighter. You can be a friend too." The words struck Jamie like a punch, leaving him momentarily speechless. "Friend?" Jamie echoed, disbelief coloring his tone. "We've been rivals for so long. How can we just switch to being friends?" Lucas smiled softly, his gaze steady. "Because it's okay to change. People grow, Jamie. We can redefine what we mean to each other." The moment hung in the air, and Jamie felt the tension building. For so long, he had been consumed by the rivalry, but now he was being offered something different, something that terrified him. The thought of letting go of the animosity and embracing a connection with Lucas sent a shiver down his spine. "Just think about it," Lucas said quietly, stepping back. "I'll be here when you're ready." Jamie watched as Lucas left the room, the weight of his words settling heavily in the silence. He was left with his thoughts, grappling with the idea that everything he had known was about to change. In the following days, Jamie struggled with his feelings. The lines between rivalry and friendship blurred, leaving him feeling lost. He found himself replaying moments with Lucas the way he had offered support, the warmth of his presence, and the unexpected concern that lay beneath their competitive banter. As he returned to training, Jamie couldn't shake the tension in the air. He noticed how Lucas continued to be there, offering encouragement and support, but Jamie found it hard to open up. He wanted to push back against the confusion, but the attraction simmered just beneath the surface, ready to burst forth. One afternoon, as they wrapped up training, Jamie caught Lucas watching him from across the gym. Their eyes locked, and for a brief moment, the noise of the gym faded away. "You ready for another round?" Lucas asked, breaking the silence. Jamie felt a rush of adrenaline surge through him. "Yeah, let's do this." They sparred, each punch exchange charged with tension. Jamie found himself lost in the rhythm of the fight, but he also felt the connection between them growing stronger. The rivalry was still there, but it was tinged with something more complex, something that made Jamie's heart race. After their session, Jamie found himself standing beside Lucas, both panting from the exertion. "You're getting better," Lucas said, a hint of admiration in his voice. Jamie felt a flush of pride at the compliment. "Thanks. I've been trying to work on my technique." "I can tell," Lucas replied, a smile breaking across his face. Jamie felt a warmth spread through him, and for the first time he allowed himself to relax in Lucas's presence. Maybe there was something to this friendship idea after all. But just as Jamie began to feel comfortable, a group of their teammates approached, laughter echoing around the gym. "What's going on here?" one of them joked, eyeing Jamie and Lucas with a teasing glint. "You two are awfully close these days." The light-hearted banter made Jamie's heart race with a mix of embarrassment and anger. "Shut up," Jamie shot back, feeling the heat rise to his cheeks. Lucas remained calm, a knowing smile on his face. "Yeah, we're just training. Is that a problem?" The tension in the air shifted as the teammates exchanged glances, laughter fading slightly. Jamie felt a rush of defiance. He wasn't going to let their judgment define him or his relationship with Lucas. "We're just friends," Jamie said firmly, the words ringing with newfound conviction. As their teammates walked away, Jamie turned to Lucas, who wore a thoughtful expression. "You handled that well," Lucas said, a hint of pride in his voice. You stood up for us. Jamie felt a swell of warmth at the compliment. I'm tired of hiding, he admitted. I want to be honest about what we have. Then let's embrace it, Lucas replied, his smile brightening the room. Together Jamie nodded, feeling a surge of hope wash over him. This was the beginning of something new, and he was ready to embrace the journey ahead, no matter what challenges lay in their path. The following weeks were a whirlwind of emotion and uncertainty for Jamie and Lucas. Their connection deepened with each training session, yet the fear of judgment from their peers lingered like a shadow. Jamie found himself grappling with his feelings as he navigated the complexities of being a fighter while exploring a budding relationship with his former rival. Every moment with Lucas was filled with tension and excitement, and Jamie felt exhilarated yet terrified at the prospect of what lay ahead. One afternoon, as they wrapped up their training, Jamie leaned against the wall, panting heavily. Lucas approached him, wiping sweat from his brow, his eyes sparkling with mischief. Want to grab some food? I hear the diner down the street has amazing burgers, he suggested, a grin stretching across his face. Jamie hesitated for a moment, the reality of being seen with Lucas weighing on his mind. Are you sure that's a good idea, he asked, feeling the weight of potential judgment from others. Lucas shrugged, his expression unwavering. Why not? I'm tired of hiding, and so should you be. Plus, it's just food. With a mixture of excitement and trepidation, Jamie nodded, feeling a rush of adrenaline at the thought of stepping out into the world with Lucas. Okay, let's do it, he replied, a smile breaking through his earlier apprehension. They headed out of the gym together, the air buzzing with possibility. As they walked down the street, Jamie felt the warmth of the sun on his skin, contrasting with the cool breeze that rustled through the trees. Lucas walked beside him, effortlessly charming, and Jamie couldn't help but steal glances at him. Every time their shoulders brushed, Jamie felt a jolt of electricity, his heart racing at the intimacy of their connection. Have you ever thought about what it would be like to fight together? Lucas asked suddenly, his tone curious. Jamie furrowed his brow, unsure of what Lucas meant. Fight together, like as a team, he replied, confusion evident in his voice. Yeah, Lucas said, a glint of excitement in his eyes. Imagine us taking on an opponent side by side. It could be epic. Jamie felt a mix of exhilaration and dread at the thought. That sounds amazing, but it also sounds complicated. We've always been rivals. Exactly, Lucas said, a playful grin on his face. But that rivalry could make us even stronger. We know each other's weaknesses and strengths. We'd be unstoppable. As they reached the diner, Jamie couldn't help but feel the warmth of Lucas's enthusiasm wash over him. They took a seat at a small booth by the window, the comforting aroma of burgers and fries wafting through the air. Jamie glanced around, noting a few familiar faces among the patrons. Lucas noticed his unease. Relax, Jamie. It's just a diner. No one cares about who we're with, he said, his tone light. Just be yourself. Jamie took a deep breath, reminding himself that he was here with someone who understood him. Right? Just food, he repeated, trying to quell the anxiety bubbling within him. Their food arrived, and Jamie found himself enjoying the moment. They laughed and shared stories, their chemistry evident as they bantered back and forth. So, what's the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you in the ring? Lucas asked, a mischievous smile on his lips. Jamie felt heat rise to his cheeks as he recalled a particularly humiliating moment. There was this one time I tripped over my own feet and fell flat on my face in front of everyone, Jamie admitted, trying to suppress a laugh. It was during a sparring session, and I just wanted to crawl under the mat and disappear. Lucas burst into laughter, the sound infectious. Okay, that's pretty hilarious, he said, wiping tears from his eyes. But it's good to know you're human too. Jamie felt a warmth spread through him at the playful exchange, the tension of judgment fading for a moment. As the evening wore on, they delved into deeper topics, sharing their hopes and dreams beyond boxing. If you could do anything, what would it be? Lucas asked, his gaze earnest. Jamie paused, contemplating the question. I think I'd want to help others, maybe coach or mentor kids who want to get into boxing, he replied, surprising himself with the honesty. Really? That's amazing, Lucas said, genuinely impressed. You'd be a great coach. You have this way of inspiring people. Jamie felt a rush of gratitude at the compliment, but also the fear of exposing his vulnerabilities. Thanks, but I don't know if I could be that person, he admitted quietly. Why not? Lucas pressed, leaning closer. "You're already doing it with me." Jamie felt a flutter in his chest at Lucas's words. "I'm just trying to get through this myself," he said, looking away. "See, that's where you're wrong," Lucas said, his voice firm. "You're not just getting through it, you're thriving. And you can help others do the same." Jamie looked back at Lucas, feeling the weight of his gaze. The sincerity in his eyes made Jamie's heart race, and he could no longer deny the attraction simmering beneath the surface. As they finished their meal, Jamie felt a sense of contentment wash over him. It was a simple evening, but it felt significant. For the first time, he was out in the world with Lucas, embracing their connection without fear. The bond they were building was both thrilling and terrifying, and Jamie was ready to explore what it meant. As they left the diner, Jamie's heart raced with anticipation. "What do you want to do now?" Lucas asked, his expression playful. Jamie paused, contemplating. "How about a walk by the river?" he suggested, hoping to prolong the evening. "Sounds perfect," Lucas replied, and they began walking side by side, the warmth of the summer night wrapping around them. The river glimmered under the moonlight, and the sound of water flowing created a serene atmosphere. Jamie felt the tension fade, replaced by a sense of ease in Lucas's presence. As they strolled along the riverbank, the conversation flowed effortlessly. They shared stories of their childhoods, their aspirations, and the struggles they faced in the boxing world. Jamie felt a connection growing, each moment drawing them closer together. "You know, I never thought I'd find a friend in my rival," Jamie said, a smile playing on his lips. "Me, neither," Lucas replied, his tone light. "But here we are, fighting our way through it together." The sincerity in Lucas's voice sent warmth coursing through Jamie, making him realize just how far they had come. But as they walked, Jamie felt a familiar pang of fear creeping in. The reality of their situation loomed over him. What would happen when their teammates found out? Would they still be accepted, or would judgment tear them apart? "Lucas, do you think they'll accept us?" Jamie asked, vulnerability creeping into his voice. Lucas paused, turning to face Jamie. "I think some will, and some won't. But the important thing is that we stay true to ourselves," he said firmly. "If we let fear dictate our actions, we'll never know what we're capable of." Jamie felt a surge of determination at Lucas's words, the fear slowly fading. As they continued their walk, Jamie found himself stealing glances at Lucas. There was something undeniably magnetic about him, something that drew Jamie in. The way Lucas's eyes sparkled in the moonlight, the warmth of his smile, it all made Jamie's heart race with an intoxicating mix of attraction and uncertainty. Eventually, they reached a quiet spot by the river, where the sounds of the city faded into the background. Jamie felt a rush of nerves as they stood there, the silence enveloping them. "What are you thinking?" Lucas asked, breaking the stillness. Jamie took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. "I'm just grateful," he admitted, his voice soft. "For everything." "For you?" Lucas stepped closer, his expression serious. "I'm grateful too, Jamie. You've shown me a side of you that I didn't expect. I want to keep exploring this." Jamie's heart raced at the honesty in Lucas's words. "But what if it doesn't work out?" he asked, the fear bubbling to the surface. "What if we ruin everything?" Lucas reached out, taking Jamie's hand in his. The warmth of their connection sent shivers down Jamie's spine. "Then we'll face it together," Lucas said, his voice steady. "But we won't know unless we try." Jamie felt a surge of courage at Lucas's reassurance. He had spent so long denying his feelings, but now, standing by the river with Lucas, he was ready to embrace the possibility of something more. As the night wore on, Jamie and Lucas shared more intimate moments, their hands intertwined as they walked along the riverbank. The vulnerability between them grew, and Jamie felt a sense of peace settling in his heart. For the first time, he felt like he could truly be himself with someone else, without the fear of judgment holding him back. With each step, Jamie knew they were venturing into uncharted territory, and he was ready to explore it with Lucas by his side. The weight of their rivalry began to fade, replaced by the promise of love and acceptance. Together, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, and Jamie felt a renewed sense of hope for the future. As they made their way back to the academy, Jamie couldn't shake the feeling that everything was changing for the better. The connection they had forged was no longer defined by rivalry but rather by friendship, support, and the possibility of love, and for the first time in a long while, Jamie felt excited about the journey ahead. The days following their night by the river were a whirlwind of emotion and uncertainty for Jamie and Lucas. The connection they had forged felt like a fragile thread, one that could easily unravel under the scrutiny of their peers. As they trained together, Jamie found himself grappling with his feelings, unsure of how to navigate this new chapter in their relationship. The tension was palpable, and every glance exchanged left him both exhilarated and terrified. One afternoon, while sparring in the gym, Jamie noticed the way Lucas moved. There was a fluidity to his punches, a confidence that radiated from him. "You've really improved," Jamie remarked, a hint of admiration in his voice. Lucas grinned, wiping sweat from his brow. "Thanks. I've been watching you, trying to pick up some of your techniques." The compliment made Jamie's heart flutter. "You're a natural," he said, trying to focus on their training. They continued to exchange blows, the rhythm of the sparring session creating an unspoken bond between them. Yet, every time their eyes met, Jamie felt a surge of confusion. He wanted to embrace this connection but feared the consequences that might come with it. As they wrapped up their training, Lucas leaned against the wall, panting lightly. "You know, we should practice some drills together. I think it would help us both," he suggested, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Jamie hesitated for a moment, feeling the weight of vulnerability settle in his chest. "Are you sure? What if our teammates see us?" he asked, glancing around the gym. "Who cares what they think?" Lucas replied, his tone defiant. "We're in this together, right? Let's just focus on improving." Jamie felt a rush of admiration for Lucas's confidence. With a nod, he agreed, pushing aside the lingering fear. They moved to a quieter corner of the gym, where they could practice without distractions. Jamie felt a sense of freedom as they drilled together, the competitive edge giving way to cooperation. Each jab, each movement felt like a step closer to something deeper. "This feels good," Jamie admitted, catching Lucas's eye. "Right? It's nice to work together instead of against each other," Lucas replied, a playful smirk on his face. They continued their practice, laughter and banter filling the air. The warmth of their connection grew stronger with each passing moment, making Jamie forget about the outside world. However, the moment of bliss was shattered when a group of their teammates walked by, their laughter cutting through the atmosphere. Jamie felt his heart race as they whispered among themselves, glancing over at him and Lucas. "What are they doing over there?" one of them sneered, the mockery clear in their tone. Jamie's stomach twisted with anxiety. "Just training," Lucas said confidently, his voice steady. "You got a problem with that?" The tension in the air thickened, and Jamie felt the weight of judgment pressing down on him. He glanced at Lucas, hoping to find strength in his gaze. "Ignore them," Jamie said, trying to keep his voice calm. "Let's just focus on what we're doing." As the group moved on, Jamie took a deep breath, trying to shake off the unease. "You handled that well," he said, admiration lacing his tone. Lucas shrugged, a hint of a smile on his lips. "I'm tired of their nonsense. We deserve to be who we are without their judgment." The words resonated with Jamie, igniting a fire within him. "You're right. I want to be open about us, but I'm still scared," he admitted, vulnerability creeping into his voice. Lucas stepped closer, his expression sincere. "Then let's take it one step at a time. We'll face whatever comes our way together." Their training resumed, but Jamie couldn't shake the tension that lingered. Every punch he threw felt charged, a mix of frustration and exhilaration flowing through him. He wanted to embrace this relationship with Lucas, but felt the weight of fear pressing down on him. In the days that followed, Jamie noticed subtle shifts in their interactions. Moments that were once filled with rivalry were now laced with an unspoken connection. They shared quiet conversations during breaks, stealing glances that sent shivers down Jamie's spine. Each touch felt electric, and he found himself drawn to Lucas in ways he hadn't anticipated. One evening, as they were leaving the gym, Lucas suggested they go for a run along the river. "It'll help clear our heads," he said, his enthusiasm contagious. Jamie hesitated, the idea of being out in public with Lucas making him nervous. "What if someone sees us?" he asked, worry creeping into his voice. "Who cares?" Lucas replied, his smile unwavering. "It's just a run. Besides, it's a beautiful evening." Jamie felt a rush of excitement at the thought of being alone with Lucas, the thrill of the forbidden adding to the allure. "Okay, let's go," he said, a sense of adventure bubbling within him. They set off along the riverbank, the cool breeze brushing against their skin as they ran side by side. The setting sun painted the sky with hues of orange and pink, creating a picturesque backdrop for their evening. Jamie felt the tension in his chest begin to ease, the rhythm of their footsteps matching the pounding of his heart. As they reached a secluded spot by the river, they slowed to a stop, both panting from the exertion. Jamie leaned against a tree, catching his breath while Lucas stretched beside him. "This was a great idea," Jamie said, a smile breaking across his face. Lucas grinned back, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "See? Nothing to worry about," he replied, wiping sweat from his brow. The intimacy of the moment felt electric, and Jamie's heart raced as he glanced at Lucas. "I guess I just worry too much," he admitted, feeling a mix of vulnerability and honesty. "Worrying is natural, but you've got to let loose sometimes," Lucas said, stepping closer. Jamie could feel the warmth radiating from him, the connection between them undeniable. "I'm trying," Jamie replied softly, their eyes locking in a moment of understanding. "I know," Lucas said, his voice sincere. "And I'm here to help you through it." Jamie felt a rush of gratitude at Lucas's words. "Thanks for being patient with me," he said, feeling the weight of his fears begin to lift. The atmosphere shifted as they stood there, the silence thick with unspoken feelings. Jamie felt the urge to lean in closer, to bridge the gap that had formed between them. "You make it easy to want to be open," he confessed, vulnerability spilling from him. "Then let's be open," Lucas replied, his voice low and inviting. The tension in the air became palpable, and Jamie felt his heart race as he took a step closer. But just as Jamie was about to close the distance, the sound of footsteps echoed behind them, breaking the moment. Jamie turned to see a couple of their teammates approaching, laughter filling the air. "What are you two lovebirds doing?" one of them teased, a smirk on their face. Jamie felt a flush of embarrassment wash over him, the moment slipping away. "Just running," Lucas said casually, his demeanor unfazed by the interruption. Jamie forced a smile, but he could feel the tension creeping back in. "Yeah, just hanging out," he added, trying to play it cool. The teammates exchanged glances, their laughter lingering as they continued on their way. Jamie felt the weight of judgment settle back over him, the moment with Lucas now feeling like a distant memory. "Sorry about that," he said, his voice low as the teammates walked away. "I didn't mean for them to interrupt." "It's okay," Lucas replied, his expression understanding. "We'll have more moments like that." "Just give it time," Jamie nodded, feeling a mix of hope and frustration. He wanted to embrace what they had, but the fear of judgment made it difficult. In the following days, the tension continued to mount. As the upcoming tournament approached, Jamie felt the weight of expectations settle heavily on his shoulders. He wanted to prove himself not just as a fighter but as someone worthy of love, acceptance, and happiness. During practice, he found himself focusing on his training, trying to push the thoughts of judgment aside. Each punch felt cathartic, a release for the anxiety building within him. Yet, every time he glanced at Lucas, the connection between them ignited a storm of conflicting emotions. After a particularly grueling session, Jamie found himself sitting on the edge of the ring, lost in thought. Lucas approached, his expression serious. "You've been quieter than usual. What's going on?" he asked, concern etched on his face. "I'm just nervous about the tournament," Jamie admitted, rubbing the back of his neck. "What if it doesn't go well? What if people judge us?" Lucas sat down beside him, their shoulders brushing. "You can't let fear control you. You're a great fighter, and you deserve to compete without worrying about what others think." "I know, but it's hard," Jamie replied, feeling the weight of Lucas's words. "I've spent so long trying to prove myself." Lucas nodded, understanding. "Prove yourself to whom?" "The people who matter will support you, no matter what." Jamie felt a swell of gratitude at Lucas's support, but the anxiety still lingered. "I just don't want to lose everything," he said quietly. "I don't want to ruin our friendship." Lucas turned to him, his gaze steady. "We're not just friends, Jamie. We're something more, and that's worth fighting for." As they sat together, Jamie felt a surge of determination wash over him. Lucas was right. He couldn't let fear dictate his actions. He needed to embrace what they had built, even if it meant facing judgment from others. In the days leading up to the tournament, Jamie threw himself into training, determined to prepare for the fight ahead. He felt a renewed sense of purpose, the bond he shared with Lucas fueling his determination. Together, they trained hard, pushing each other to grow stronger. On the day of the tournament, Jamie's heart raced with a mix of excitement and dread. The gym was filled with energy as fighters warmed up and coaches shouted encouragement. He felt a sense of camaraderie among his teammates, but the weight of judgment still hung in the air. As he stood backstage, preparing for his first match, Jamie felt Lucas's presence beside him. "You've got this," Lucas said, his voice steady and reassuring. Jamie looked at him, feeling the warmth of support. "Thanks. I don't know what I'd do without you. Just remember to be true to yourself," Lucas replied, a hint of a smile on his lips. Jamie nodded, feeling the tension in his chest begin to ease. He was ready to face whatever came his way. The matches began, and Jamie fought hard, channeling his emotions into each punch. He felt the adrenaline surge through him, the cheers of the crowd echoing in his ears. With each victory, he felt a rush of confidence. But as the tournament progressed, Jamie couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Every time he glanced at the crowd, he felt the weight of judgment bearing down on him. He wanted to embrace his relationship with Lucas, but the fear of what others would think threatened to overshadow his achievements. In the final match, Jamie stood across the ring from his opponent, determination burning in his chest. He fought fiercely, pouring everything he had into the moment. As he landed punch after punch, he could feel the crowd rallying behind him. But the whispers of judgment still echoed in his mind. "Come on, Jamie. You can do it," Lucas shouted from the sidelines, his voice cutting through the noise. Jamie felt a surge of strength at the sound of Lucas's support. He couldn't let fear control him any longer. With a renewed sense of purpose, Jamie pushed forward, channeling every ounce of energy into the fight. As the final bell rang, Jamie stood victorious, panting and exhilarated. The crowd erupted in cheers, but all he could focus on was the warmth radiating from Lucas's gaze. "You did it," Lucas exclaimed, rushing to Jamie's side. "I knew you could." "I couldn't have done it without you," Jamie said, his heart racing. The connection between them felt electric, and in that moment Jamie knew that everything had changed. He was ready to embrace the future, ready to stand by Lucas's side without fear. As they left the gym that evening, Jamie felt liberated. He had fought not just for victory but for love and acceptance. The journey had been difficult, but with Lucas beside him, he knew they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they were ready to forge a path filled with love, support, and a future that promised to be brighter than he had ever imagined. The weeks following the tournament were filled with a mix of exhilaration and uncertainty for Jamie and Lucas. With Jamie's victory, the tension surrounding their relationship seemed to ease slightly, but the undercurrent of judgment still lingered in the gym. Jamie found himself navigating the complexities of being an openly gay fighter, trying to balance the newfound acceptance with the fear of what others might think. The bond between him and Lucas had deepened, but Jamie still felt the weight of societal expectations pressing down on him. One evening, as they trained together, Lucas noticed Jamie's distraction. "What's on your mind?" he asked, concern etched on his face. Jamie paused, catching his breath before replying, "I'm just thinking about how people will react now that we're more open." Lucas stepped closer, his expression serious. "We can't control how others feel. All we can do is be true to ourselves." Jamie nodded, feeling a mix of gratitude and frustration. "I know, but it's hard to ignore the whispers," and Lucas reached out, squeezing Jamie's shoulder. "You're stronger than you realize, Jamie. We'll face whatever comes our way together." As they continued to train, Jamie couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty that lingered. Every punch he threw felt infused with a mix of determination and fear. He wanted to be proud of his relationship with Lucas, but the anxiety of judgment held him back. "Let's try some drills together," Jamie suggested, wanting to focus on their training rather than the external pressures. Lucas grinned, a spark of enthusiasm in his eyes. "Sounds great. I'll go easy on you." This time they began their drills, the rhythm of their movements creating a sense of intimacy that felt electric. With every shared glance, Jamie felt the tension between them grow, a mix of excitement and uncertainty swirling within him. As the weeks passed, they navigated the complexities of their relationship, finding comfort in each other's presence. The gym became a battleground, not just for physical prowess but for emotional growth. They faced the challenges together, training side by side, pushing each other to be better both in and out of the ring. But as their bond grew stronger, so did the scrutiny from others. One afternoon, Jamie overheard a group of teammates whispering as he and Lucas trained nearby. "Did you see those two? What a joke," one of them snickered. Jamie's heart sank, anger boiling within him. "Just ignore them," Lucas said, sensing Jamie's frustration. "They'll get over it." Jamie clenched his fists, wanting to stand up for himself and Lucas, but feeling the fear of confrontation hold him back. "It's just frustrating," he admitted, his voice low. "I want to be proud of us, but it feels like we're still under a microscope." "We can't let them dictate how we feel," Lucas replied, his tone firm. "We have each other, and that's what matters." Jamie nodded, feeling the warmth of Lucas's support. He wanted to believe it, but the doubt lingered, threatening to overshadow the happiness he felt in their relationship. One evening, after a particularly intense training session, Jamie and Lucas decided to take a break and grab dinner at their favorite diner. As they sat in a booth, the familiar smell of burgers and fries filled the air. Jamie felt a sense of comfort wash over him, the weight of the world momentarily lifted. "This is nice," Jamie said, taking a sip of his drink. Lucas smiled, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "It's even better with you here," he replied, a hint of flirtation in his tone. Jamie felt warmth spread through him at the compliment, the connection between them igniting once again. As they enjoyed their meal, the conversation flowed easily, laughter filling the space between them. "So what's next for you?" Lucas asked, leaning forward with interest. "Any big goals after the tournament?" Jamie paused, contemplating the question. "I want to keep improving my technique, but I also want to be more open about who I am." "That's a great goal," Lucas said, nodding in encouragement. "You've come so far already." Jamie felt a swell of pride at the compliment. "Thanks. It's just, sometimes it's hard to shake the fear," he admitted, vulnerability creeping into his voice. Lucas reached across the table, taking Jamie's hand in his. "You're not alone in this. I'm here, and I believe in you." The warmth of Lucas's touch sent shivers down Jamie's spine, and he felt a surge of gratitude wash over him. "I appreciate that more than you know," Jamie said, squeezing Lucas's hand in return. As they finished their meal, Jamie felt a renewed sense of determination. He wanted to be proud of his relationship with Lucas, to embrace who he was without fear. Together, they walked back to the academy, the night air cool against their skin. But as they approached the gym, Jamie's heart raced with anxiety. He noticed a group of their teammates hanging out outside, laughter ringing through the air. "Do we have to go in?" he asked, feeling a wave of dread wash over him. Lucas looked at him, his expression reassuring. "We can do this. Just remember, we're in this together." As they entered the gym, Jamie felt the weight of the world settle on his shoulders. The whispers began as soon as they walked in. "Look who it is," one of the teammates sneered, their tone dripping with sarcasm. Jamie clenched his fists, anger bubbling beneath the surface. "What's your problem?" he shot back, feeling the need to stand up for himself. "Nothing. Just wondering when you two are going to get a room," the teammate retorted, laughter following the comment. Jamie felt the heat rise to his cheeks, a mix of embarrassment and anger coursing through him. Lucas stepped forward, his expression unwavering. "We're just training. Is that a problem for you?" The tension in the air thickened, and Jamie felt the anxiety swell within him. He wanted to support Lucas, to stand up against the judgment, but fear held him back. "Just let it go," Jamie whispered, wanting to retreat from the confrontation. But Lucas shook his head, determination in his gaze. "No, this is our moment. We shouldn't have to hide." Jamie's heart raced at the defiance in Lucas's voice. It was empowering yet terrifying. The group of teammates exchanged glances, their laughter fading slightly. "Whatever, man," one of them said, trying to brush it off. "Do what you want. Just don't expect us to cheer for you." Jamie felt a surge of anger at the dismissal. "We're not asking for your approval," he replied, his voice steady. "We're just trying to be ourselves." As the tension hung in the air, Jamie felt a sense of empowerment wash over him. He was no longer willing to let fear dictate his actions. With Lucas by his side, he could face whatever judgment came their way. After the confrontation, Jamie and Lucas stepped away from the group, their hearts racing. "That was intense," Jamie said, feeling a mix of exhilaration and anxiety. "But I'm glad you stood up for us." Lucas nodded, a proud smile on his face. "We can't let them control how we feel. We have each other, and that's what matters." The days that followed were filled with a newfound sense of confidence for Jamie. He and Lucas trained hard, pushing each other to grow stronger. The whispers from their teammates continued, but Jamie felt less affected by them. The support they had built together gave him the strength to embrace his identity. One afternoon, as they practiced drills in the gym, Jamie noticed a shift in the atmosphere. Other fighters began to approach him, and Lucas, offering words of encouragement. "Hey man, nice job out there," one of them said, clapping Jamie on the back. Jamie felt a swell of gratitude at the unexpected support. "Thanks," he replied, feeling a renewed sense of hope. It seemed that not everyone was judgmental, and maybe there were those who accepted him for who he was. The shift in dynamics gave Jamie the courage to be more open about his relationship with Lucas. As the weeks progressed, Jamie felt more comfortable being himself. He and Lucas continued to grow closer, sharing moments of intimacy that left Jamie breathless. They would steal kisses between drills and share laughter that filled the gym with warmth. The bond they were building was something Jamie had never anticipated. and it left him feeling exhilarated. One evening, after a particularly intense training session, they decided to take a break and go for a walk. As they strolled through the park, the cool evening air wrapped around them like a comforting blanket. "I love this," Lucas said, looking up at the stars. "Just being out here with you." "Me too," Jamie replied, feeling the warmth of Lucas's presence beside him. "I never thought I could feel this way about someone I used to see as my rival." Lucas smiled, his gaze sincere. "That just shows how far we've come. We've redefined our relationship, and it's something special." As they continued their walk, Jamie felt a sense of peace wash over him. He was no longer burdened by the weight of judgment. Instead, he was ready to embrace what they had built together. "You make it easy to be myself," Jamie admitted, glancing at Lucas. "I feel like I can face anything as long as you're by my side." "Always," Lucas replied, his voice steady. "We're in this together, no matter what." The promise hung in the air, and Jamie felt a sense of belonging he had never experienced before. Together, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, and Jamie felt a renewed sense of hope for the future. As they returned to the academy, Jamie felt liberated. He had fought hard for acceptance, and with Lucas beside him, he knew they could conquer anything. The bond they had forged was unbreakable, and Jamie was ready to embrace the love that had blossomed from their rivalry. Together, they were ready to take on the world. As the weeks turned into months, Jamie and Lucas settled into a rhythm both in and out of the ring. Their bond had grown stronger, anchored by shared experiences and the trials they had faced together. However, the journey was not without its challenges. The whispers and judgment from their teammates still lingered in the air, but Jamie felt more equipped to handle it, bolstered by the support of Lucas and a few close friends who had embraced their relationship. One evening, they found themselves training late in the gym, the air thick with determination. Jamie was hitting the heavy bag with a newfound intensity, channeling the frustrations that had built up over time. "You're looking strong today," Lucas commented, leaning against the wall, arms crossed and a smile on his face. Jamie paused, wiping sweat from his brow. "Thanks, I'm just trying to keep pushing myself." Lucas stepped closer, watching Jamie's movements with keen interest. "Want to try some combinations together? I think we could really help each other improve." Jamie felt a rush of excitement at the idea. "Sure. I'm always up for a challenge." As they moved to the center of the gym, Jamie felt the tension between them crackle with energy. They practiced their combinations, each punch and kick synchronized, creating a rhythm that felt almost instinctual. "This is great. We're getting better every time," Lucas said, his enthusiasm infectious. Jamie nodded, feeling the adrenaline surge through him. "I can really feel the difference," Jamie replied, focusing on Lucas's movements. But as they continued, Jamie couldn't help but notice the subtle shifts in Lucas's demeanor. There were moments when their hands brushed against each other, sending a jolt of electricity through Jamie. Each accidental touch ignited a fire within him, a mix of attraction and uncertainty that he struggled to contain. After an intense session, they took a break, leaning against the ropes of the ring to catch their breath. "What's next for you?" Lucas asked, his tone curious. Jamie hesitated, contemplating the future. "Honestly, I'm just focusing on improving my skills right now. I want to make sure I'm ready for the next tournament." "That's a good goal," Lucas replied, his expression earnest. "But you should also think about what you want beyond boxing. What do you see for yourself?" Jamie felt a twinge of anxiety at the question. "I don't know, to be honest. I've always focused so much on being a fighter that I haven't thought about life after that." Lucas studied him for a moment, his gaze unwavering. "You're more than just a fighter, Jamie. You have so much potential in other areas too. Have you ever thought about coaching or mentoring?" Jamie's heart raced at the suggestion. "I've thought about it, but I don't know if I'd be good at it." "Why not?" Lucas challenged gently. "You're already a great role model for others. You could inspire so many people." Jamie felt a warmth spread through him at Lucas's words, but doubt still lingered. "I appreciate that, but it's a big responsibility," he replied, his voice tinged with uncertainty. "It is a responsibility, but it's also a chance to make a difference," Lucas said, stepping closer. "You have a gift, Jamie. Don't be afraid to share it." Jamie looked into Lucas's eyes, feeling the sincerity behind his words. It was encouraging, yet the fear of failure gnawed at him. As they left the gym that evening, Jamie felt a mix of determination and anxiety. He wanted to embrace the possibility of coaching, but the fear of stepping into a new role left him hesitant. "Do you think I could really do it?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Lucas nodded, confidence radiating from him. Absolutely. You just need to believe in yourself as much as I believe in you. In the days that followed, Jamie began to explore the idea of coaching. He approached the gym's youth program and offered to volunteer during practice sessions. It felt daunting at first, stepping into the role of a mentor, but the joy of working with the younger fighters ignited a passion within him. Each time he helped a kid improve their technique, he felt a sense of fulfillment that surpassed anything he had experienced in the ring. "Hey, you're really good at this," one of the young fighters, Mia, said after a particularly productive session. Jamie smiled, feeling the warmth of her words. "Thanks, you're doing great too. Just keep practicing, and you'll get there." As he spent time mentoring, Jamie also began to see the changes in his relationship with Lucas. They continued to train together, but now Jamie felt a newfound sense of balance. He was no longer just a fighter, he was a mentor, a role that brought him joy and satisfaction. "I can't believe how much you're thriving," Lucas said one evening as they wrapped up their training. "You really found your groove." "Thanks," Jamie replied, feeling proud of how far he had come. "It's a lot of work, but it feels good to make a difference." Lucas's eyes sparkled with admiration. "I always knew you had it in you. You're going to be an incredible coach." Yet, even as things seemed to be falling into place, Jamie still felt the weight of judgment lurking in the background. He noticed that while some teammates were supportive, others continued to whisper and share disapproving glances. "It's frustrating," Jamie admitted one evening as they sat on the gym floor, catching their breath after a long training session. "I thought things would get better after the tournament, but it still feels like we're under a microscope." "Don't let them get to you," Lucas said, his voice firm. "They don't matter. What matters is what we have and how far we've come." Jamie felt a surge of gratitude at Lucas's support. "You're right. I just wish it didn't bother me so much," he replied, frustration seeping into his tone. "Everyone faces judgment at some point. It's how you respond to it that defines you," Lucas said, his gaze steady. Jamie nodded, trying to absorb the wisdom in Lucas's words. He realized that embracing who he was meant standing firm against the judgment of others. As the weeks continued, Jamie found himself growing more comfortable in his role as a mentor. The joy of seeing his students improve fueled his passion for coaching, and he felt a sense of purpose he had never anticipated. He and Lucas often discussed their experiences, and Jamie cherished those moments of vulnerability. "You know, I never thought I'd enjoy coaching as much as I do," Jamie admitted one evening as they sat together on the bleachers after practice. "I'm proud of you," Lucas replied, a warm smile lighting up his face. "You're doing something amazing." Jamie felt a rush of gratitude. "Thanks for always believing in me. I don't think I would have found this path without your support." With the added confidence from coaching, Jamie began to open up more about his feelings for Lucas. They shared intimate moments, stealing kisses during breaks, and finding ways to be together despite the judgment they faced. Yet, every time they were interrupted or caught in public, Jamie's heart raced with anxiety. One day, as they trained, a group of teammates approached, laughter echoing around the gym. "What are you two lovebirds up to today?" one of them teased, a smirk on their face. Jamie felt his heart sink, embarrassment washing over him. "Just training," he replied, trying to keep his tone light. Lucas stepped forward, his expression unwavering. "Yeah, is there a problem with that?" The challenge in his voice caught Jamie off guard, and he felt a surge of pride. "We're just doing what we love," Jamie added, wanting to stand beside Lucas in solidarity. The group exchanged glances, their laughter fading slightly. "Whatever, man. Just don't expect us to cheer for you," one of them scoffed before walking away. Jamie felt a mix of frustration and determination. "We don't need their approval," he said firmly, looking at Lucas. "We're doing this for us." The encounter only fueled Jamie's resolve to be open about who he was. With Lucas's support, he began to embrace the idea of being an openly gay fighter. As the weeks passed, the whispers began to fade, and some of their teammates slowly started to accept their relationship. It was a long journey, but Jamie felt empowered to continue pushing forward. During one practice session, Jamie noticed a few younger fighters gathered around, watching him and Lucas train. "Hey, can you show us that combo again?" one of them called out, excitement in their voice. Jamie exchanged a glance with Lucas, both feeling a surge of encouragement. "Of course. Come on over," Jamie replied, feeling a sense of purpose wash over him. As they demonstrated the combination, Jamie felt a sense of pride swell within him. The connection he shared with Lucas made him feel alive, and being able to inspire others only reinforced that feeling. "You're really good at this," one of the young fighters said after they finished. "Thanks. Just keep practicing, and you'll get there, Jamie encouraged, feeling fulfilled by the moment. As the younger fighters attempted the combo, Jamie turned to Lucas, a smile spreading across his face. "I think I'm starting to really like this coaching thing." "I knew you would," Lucas replied, beaming with pride. "You have a natural talent for it." Jamie felt warmth bloom in his chest at the compliment, realizing just how much he had grown since starting this journey. However, despite the positivity in the gym, Jamie still felt the occasional sting of judgment from some teammates. One day, as they were wrapping up training, Jamie overheard a group whispering behind him. "Can you believe they're still at it?" one of them sneered, causing Jamie's heart to sink. "Let them talk," Lucas said quietly, sensing Jamie's discomfort. "We're better than that," Jamie nodded, trying to shake off the negativity, but it lingered in his mind. He wanted to be proud of his relationship, but the lingering judgment threatened to overshadow his happiness. In the following days, Jamie found himself retreating into his thoughts more often. He wanted to embrace who he was, but the judgment weighed heavily on his shoulders. One evening, as they trained late in the gym, Jamie finally voiced his concerns to Lucas. "Do you ever worry about what they say?" he asked, feeling vulnerable. Lucas paused, looking thoughtful. "I used to, but then I realized that their opinions don't define me. What matters is how we feel about each other." Jamie considered Lucas's words, feeling the truth behind them. "You're right. I just need to let go of the fear," he replied, determination building within him. As the weeks continued, Jamie began to shift his mindset. He focused on his training, on being the best fighter he could be, and on the love he shared with Lucas. They spent time outside the gym, enjoying each other's company and building a life together. Their relationship flourished, becoming a source of strength amidst the challenges they faced. One afternoon, while walking through the park, Jamie turned to Lucas with a smile. "You know, I think I'm finally starting to feel comfortable being myself." Lucas grinned back, pride shining in his eyes. "That's amazing, Jamie. You've come so far, and I'm so proud of you." "Thanks for being my support," Jamie replied, feeling gratitude swell within him. "I wouldn't have gotten here without you." Lucas stepped closer, their shoulders brushing together. "We're in this together, remember?" As they continued their walk, Jamie felt a sense of peace settling in his heart. He was ready to embrace the future with Lucas by his side. The journey had been challenging, but the love they shared was worth every struggle. Together, they were ready to face whatever lay ahead, hand in hand, heart to heart. As the final tournament of the season approached, Jamie felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness bubbling within him. This was more than just another match, it was a culmination of everything he had worked for, a chance to prove not only to his teammates but also to himself that he could be both a fighter and a person worthy of love. He and Lucas had spent countless hours training together, sharpening their skills and supporting each other through the challenges they faced. Yet, with the weight of expectation resting on his shoulders, Jamie couldn't shake the feeling of anxiety that crept in whenever he thought about the upcoming event. One evening, they were in the gym, the familiar sounds of punching bags and sparring filling the air. Jamie paused in the middle of a drill, turning to Lucas. "Do you think I'm ready for this?" he asked, uncertainty creeping into his voice. Lucas stepped closer, a reassuring smile on his face. "You've been training hard, and you're stronger than you realize. Trust in yourself." Jamie felt a rush of gratitude at Lucas's words, but doubt lingered. "I just don't want to let anyone down, especially you," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "You've been there for me through everything." Lucas shook his head, stepping even closer. "You could never let me down. Just go out there and be yourself. That's all you need to do." The day of the tournament arrived, and the atmosphere in the gym was electric. Jamie felt the buzz of excitement and anticipation in the air as fighters warmed up and coaches shouted encouragement. He took a deep breath, trying to calm the whirlwind of emotions swirling within him. "You got this, Jamie," he muttered to himself, the mantra echoing in his mind. As he prepared for his first match, he spotted Lucas across the gym, who flashed him an encouraging smile. "Remember, just have fun out there," Lucas shouted, the words filling Jamie with a renewed sense of determination. He nodded, feeling the warmth of support radiating from Lucas. When it was finally time for his match, Jamie stepped into the ring, heart pounding with adrenaline. The crowd cheered, and the lights felt bright and overwhelming. As he faced his opponent, he focused on the training they had done together, channeling everything he had learned. "This is it," he told himself, the intensity of the moment igniting a fire within him. The match began, and Jamie felt the adrenaline surge as he threw his first punches. He fought fiercely, each movement fluid and controlled. As he landed blow after blow, he felt the rush of empowerment wash over him. This was his moment, and he was ready to seize it. But as the match progressed, Jamie felt the familiar weight of judgment creeping in. The crowd's cheers mixed with whispers of doubt, and he found himself struggling to stay focused. "Don't let them get to you," he reminded himself, recalling Lucas's earlier words. He had come too far to let fear dictate his actions now. With a burst of energy, Jamie regained his focus, pushing through the distractions. He remembered the bond he shared with Lucas, the love that fueled his determination. "I'm doing this for us," he thought, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. As the final round approached, Jamie felt the adrenaline coursing through his veins. He could see the determination in his opponent's eyes, but he refused to back down. With each strike, he felt the tension in the air shift, the crowd on the edge of their seats. Jamie could hear Lucas's voice, cutting through the noise. "You've got this, Jamie. Just keep fighting." In a final surge of energy, Jamie landed a decisive blow, sending his opponent to the canvas. The crowd erupted into cheers, and Jamie stood in the center of the ring, heart pounding with exhilaration. He had done it. As he caught his breath, he looked up to see Lucas cheering wildly from the sidelines, pride radiating from his expression. When the match ended, Jamie stepped out of the ring, his heart still racing. Lucas rushed to his side, beaming with excitement. "You were amazing out there," he exclaimed, wrapping Jamie in a tight embrace. Jamie felt a rush of joy at the warmth of Lucas's support. "I couldn't have done it without you," he replied, feeling a mix of gratitude and exhilaration. As the tournament continued, Jamie felt a sense of fulfillment that extended beyond his victories. He embraced the community that surrounded him, the acceptance that was slowly forming among his peers. Conversations flowed easily, laughter filled the air, and he no longer felt the weight of judgment pressing down on him. "Hey Jamie," one of his teammates called out after a match. "Congratulations. You really kicked ass today." Jamie felt warmth spread through him at the compliment. "Thanks. It means a lot to hear that," he replied, a genuine smile breaking across his face. Lucas stood beside him, pride shining in his eyes. "I knew you could do it," he said, his tone filled with admiration. Jamie felt a rush of gratitude at Lucas's unwavering support. "I owe you everything," he admitted, the sincerity behind his words echoing in the air. As they celebrated together, Jamie realized how far he had come. The journey of self-acceptance and love had transformed him, allowing him to embrace who he was without fear. With Lucas by his side, he felt empowered to face whatever challenges lay ahead. But as the tournament drew to a close, Jamie also recognized that not everyone had embraced their relationship. Some teammates still harbored judgment, and he knew they would face challenges together. "How do we deal with the ones who still don't accept us?" Jamie asked, concern creeping into his voice. Lucas took a deep breath, looking thoughtful. "We'll continue to be ourselves. The right people will see that our love is genuine, and they'll come around," he said, his voice steady. Jamie nodded, appreciating Lucas's unwavering belief in their relationship. "You're right. I just wish it didn't feel so difficult." "It's okay to feel that way," Lucas replied, his tone reassuring. "We're in this together, and we'll face the challenges as a team." Jamie felt a swell of warmth at the words, knowing that their bond would help them navigate whatever lay ahead. As they left the tournament, Jamie felt a renewed sense of hope. He had fought hard for acceptance, not just for himself but for the love he shared with Lucas. The journey was ongoing, but Jamie was ready to embrace it, knowing he had Lucas by his side. The weeks following the tournament were filled with moments of growth and introspection. Jamie continued to mentor younger fighters, finding joy in sharing his passion for boxing. Each session reminded him of the importance of community and support, and he cherished the relationships he was building. One evening, after a particularly successful practice, Jamie and Lucas sat together on the gym floor, their backs against the wall. "I'm really starting to love coaching," Jamie admitted, a smile spreading across his face. Lucas looked at him, pride shining in his eyes. "You're a natural. You have a gift for inspiring others." "Thanks," Jamie said, feeling a rush of gratitude. It feels good to help them improve and see their excitement as they chatted. Jamie felt a sense of belonging that he hadn't experienced before. The fear of judgment was still present, but the love and support he shared with Lucas helped him push through. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow through the gym windows, Jamie turned to Lucas. "I'm really glad we're doing this together," he said, feeling a swell of emotion. Lucas smiled back, his gaze steady. "Me too. We make a great team, in and out of the ring." As the days continued, Jamie and Lucas faced their challenges head-on. They encountered moments of judgment from their peers, but together they stood strong. The bond they had built was unbreakable, a testament to their love and resilience. One day as they trained, a new fighter joined the gym, a young, eager kid named Alex. Jamie immediately saw potential in him, and he felt a sense of excitement at the prospect of mentoring someone new. "Hey Alex. Want to show you some drills?" Jamie asked, watching the kid's eyes light up with enthusiasm. "Really? That would be awesome," Alex replied, bouncing on his feet. Jamie felt a rush of joy at the opportunity to inspire another fighter. As they practiced, Lucas stood nearby, watching with a proud smile on his face. Jamie felt a surge of fulfillment, realizing that he was not only growing as a fighter but also as a mentor. The camaraderie in the gym began to shift, with more fighters approaching Jamie and Lucas, seeking guidance and support. It felt good to be accepted, and Jamie found strength in the connections he was building. Yet, even with the growing support, the whispers of judgment still occasionally surfaced. One day after practice, Jamie overheard a couple of teammates exchanging snide comments about him and Lucas. "I can't believe they think they're so special," one of them sneered, their tone dripping with disdain. Jamie felt his stomach twist, frustration boiling beneath the surface. But before he could react, Lucas stepped in, his voice steady and firm. "You don't know what we've been through, and frankly, it's none of your business," he said, confronting them head-on. Jamie felt a rush of admiration for Lucas's bravery, and he stepped closer, ready to support him. "We're just being ourselves. If you have a problem with that, that's on you," Jamie added, his voice filled with conviction. The teammates exchanged uncomfortable glances, the laughter fading as they realized Jamie and Lucas wouldn't back down. "Whatever, man. Just don't expect us to cheer for you," one of them scoffed before walking away. As they left, Jamie felt a mix of anger and empowerment. "We're not asking for your approval," he said, determination rising within him. "Exactly," Lucas replied, his gaze unwavering. "We're here for each other, and that's what matters." Jamie felt a sense of strength wash over him, knowing that together they could face anything. In the following weeks, Jamie continued to grow both as a fighter and as a mentor. His connection with Lucas deepened, and they shared moments of intimacy that left Jamie breathless. Their relationship became a source of strength, and Jamie embraced the love they shared without fear. One evening, as they trained late, Lucas turned to Jamie, a playful grin on his face. "You know, I think we should plan a weekend getaway. Just the two of us." Jamie felt his heart race at the suggestion. "That sounds amazing. Where do you want to go?" "I was thinking the beach. We could relax, train a little, and just enjoy some time away," Lucas replied, excitement evident in his tone. Jamie nodded enthusiastically, feeling the thrill of adventure. "Let's do it. I could use a break from everything." As they made plans for the getaway, Jamie felt a renewed sense of hope for the future. He was ready to embrace the love he shared with Lucas fully. The journey they had taken together had transformed him, allowing him to grow into the person he was meant to be. The day of the getaway arrived, and Jamie felt a rush of excitement as they packed their bags. They hit the road, the sun shining brightly, and the music playing loudly in the car. Jamie couldn't help but smile as he glanced over at Lucas, who was singing along with the radio, carefree and full of joy. "This is going to be amazing," Lucas exclaimed, his enthusiasm infectious. Jamie nodded, feeling a sense of adventure bubbling within him. They spent the drive laughing, sharing stories, and enjoying the freedom of being together without the pressures of the gym or their teammates. When they finally arrived at the beach, Jamie felt a sense of wonder wash over him. The sound of waves crashing against the shore, the salty breeze in the air, it was also refreshing. "This is perfect," Jamie said, taking a deep breath as they stepped onto the sand. Lucas grinned, looking around in awe. "I can't believe we're finally here. Let's hit the water." Without hesitation, he ran toward the waves, and Jamie couldn't help but laugh at his exuberance. He followed closely behind, feeling the exhilaration of the moment. As they splashed in the water, Jamie felt a sense of freedom he hadn't experienced in a long time. The worries of the gym and judgment faded away, replaced by laughter and joy. They played in the waves, splashing each other and enjoying the carefree spirit of the day. After a while, they made their way back to the shore, breathless and exhilarated. Jamie flopped onto the sand, feeling the warmth envelop him. Lucas joined him, lying side by side, their shoulders touching. "This is the best," Jamie said, looking up at the sky. "Agreed. Just what we needed," Lucas replied, his gaze focused on the horizon. Jamie turned his head to look at him, feeling a rush of affection. "I'm really glad we did this," he said, sincerity lacing his tone. "Me too," Lucas said, turning to meet Jamie's gaze. "It's nice to escape and just be ourselves in that moment." Jamie felt a warmth spreading through him, the connection between them stronger than ever. "You mean everything to me," Jamie admitted, vulnerability coloring his voice. Lucas smiled, his expression softening. "You mean everything to me too, Jamie. I'm so proud of how far we've come." Jamie felt a swell of happiness at the words, knowing that their journey together had only just begun. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow across the beach, Jamie and Lucas shared intimate moments, stealing kisses and whispers filled with promises. The connection between them felt deeper, and Jamie knew that this getaway was just the beginning of a beautiful new chapter in their lives. That evening, they built a small fire on the beach, the flickering flames casting dancing shadows in the darkness. Jamie watched as Lucas roasted marshmallows, laughter filling the air. "This is so much fun," Jamie said, feeling a sense of contentment wash over him. "I'm glad you're enjoying it," Lucas replied, a soft smile gracing his lips. Jamie felt a rush of affection at the sight. "I wouldn't want to be anywhere else," he said sincerely, and for a moment, everything felt perfect. As they sat by the fire, sharing stories and dreams, Jamie felt a sense of peace envelop him. He was exactly where he wanted to be, with the person who made him feel alive. "Let's make a pact," Lucas said suddenly, looking serious. "No matter what challenges come our way, we'll face them together." Jamie nodded, feeling the weight of the promise. "Together, always," he agreed, and in that moment, they solidified their commitment to each other. The fire crackled, mirroring the warmth blossoming in their hearts, and Jamie knew that they were ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. As the stars twinkled overhead, Jamie felt a sense of hope and possibility swell within him. The journey he had taken with Lucas had transformed him in ways he had never imagined, allowing him to embrace love and acceptance. With Lucas by his side, he felt invincible, ready to take on the world together.